do you define the New Orleans Film Festival? What aspects of your festival makes it different from other international festivals?
Yeah, well, the New Orleans Film Festival has a very specific focus to films and filmmakers who are coming out of the American South. So we put a lot of work and intention into cultivating something of an industry here. Our festival is a really great opportunity for people from all over the world and all over the country to convene in New Orleans and celebrate with local filmmakers here as well. So I think that we're able to provide a diversity of perspectives in that way. And as we have conversations about what it means to have diverse representation in the media, to have more films by directors of color, by queer, non-binary directors, by disabled directors. We also like to take geography into account and say, okay, we want to have films by Southern directors be recognized as well. So I think that's what really sets our festival apart is our commitment to diversity. Last year and in previous years, over half of the films we've showcased were by directors of color, and about the same percentage were by female directors as well. And we spanned across 44 different nationalities in our last festival. So it's a special thing to be able to bring all those people together in a city like New Orleans.
Do you have selection committee? If yes, what is the relationship between you as the artistic director or programming director and the committee who has the final words on selection?
Yeah, so for as far as what films we decide to screen, we have a group of programmers that are commissioned each year to watch the films, and we work with an even larger pool of volunteer screeners to review all the films. And so how that process works is each programmer will work with a group of screeners to review around maybe 400 or so short films, for instance, and then they'll determine what the best 10% of that group are, and those make it to the second round of programming. From that point, each of our programmers takes a look at the second round submissions, and we have about 3 or 4 different meetings where we have conversations about which ones we were most taken by or enthusiastic about, and how we could potentially show them. And so to be more transparent with filmmakers, we've come up with a sort of list of our programming practices to explain the types of films that we're interested in, and just outline, what our values are as a film society, to be transparent about what we're looking for, who we are, and who we like to support.
And how many films do you usually watch each year, and how many do you select?
2019, for instance, we received just over 5,600 submissions, and we selected 218 of those to screen at the festival. And in 2020, we received around 4,600 submissions and selected 160 of those to screen at the festival. So it's very competitive.
In your festival description, you wrote that we recognize that that the quality notion of artistic merit and artistic aesthetic quality are informed by a racist lineage and a hierarchical system designed to maintain a white, elitist, heteronormative perspective. Given this, do you believe that there exists something that we can call a good film with a universal message? If yes, what are its characteristics?
Yeah, I think if anything, we are really enthusiastic about films that are personal, films that only that director can tell. And I have this philosophy that the more personal a story is to you, the more universal it becomes to the viewer, that viewer is able to walk into it with their own similar experiences or approaches to that theme. Everyone sees themselves in other work in some way. So when we say that, we're trying to strip away these notions of merit and artistic taste and style, what we're saying is, we don't put so much priority or emphasis on how sleek of a film it is or how beautiful the cinematography is or this or that. And we love those things. We're always excited by it, but we're really just captivated by genuine storytellers who have something urgent that they want to share with the world through their films.
How is it essential for you to have a premiere of a film?
We don't require a premiere status for our films. It's really important to us that filmmakers are able to get their film out into the world in the best way that they're able to, and that it's seen by as many people as possible. So yeah, of course, we love to be able to show it to New Orleans for the first time, but we don't have a premiere requirement for that, nor do we, discriminate against films who have previously aired online prior to our festival.
Does it make sense to you to select a film that might not attract an audience, or do you prefer movies that can secure a good turnout of the audience?
That's a good question. I mean, we definitely keep audience in mind when we're making our decisions, but there are certainly many films that we've chosen where we've had no idea how the audience was going to receive it, but maybe it was a filmmaker that we really, really believed in and wanted to share our platform with. Um, and I think the beautiful thing about film festivals too is that we have the opportunity to bring films to audiences that they might not have otherwise seen. So we're in that way, we're expanding the taste of our local community as well. So I think something that people who come to the festival regularly could say is that at least, once a year they see a film that they might not have thought that they, would be into something like this, but it took them by surprise. So yeah.
And how is the relationship between you and the audience? Do you get feedback from your audience? Do you change your program based on their feedbacks?
Oh yeah, I think we have a great relationship with our audience. I should say that before I stepped into my role as programming manager at the New Orleans Film Society, I was an audience member. I'm also a filmmaker, and so I came up through the Emerging Voices program that the New Orleans Film Society hosts. And especially for our local film community, this has served as such a hub. And so you see the same people year to year, and it really feels like a family reunion in that way. I felt so connected to this festival before I worked for it. And so yeah, our audience plays a really big role in how the festival is designed. We want people to feel comfortable. We want people to have a good time, experience new films, and meet people from all over the country. So we always welcome feedback and conversation, and
Mhm.
try to keep them entertained.
It is a critical for you to know who made the films, under what circumstances, and for which goal. How do you gather information about these aspects of the film? Have you developed a questionnaire that filmmaker has to fill? If yes, how have you reached that questionnaires?
Yeah, so after we developed a new programming practices guide, we added 2 questions to our submissions process. So when a filmmaker goes to Film Freeway to submit their film, they'll have to, 3 questions sort of, they'll have to answer 3 questions. The first is how did that team approach equity and inclusivity in their filmmaking practice? And so, we want to make sure that we are prioritizing or thinking about filmmakers who are very intentional about who they work with, uh, because this industry has a lot of blind sides in that way. And then the second question is, what is your relationship to the subject matter of your film, the communities or the people or the themes that you're exploring? Being a film festival in the South in particular, we really try to counter extractive storytelling, meaning we want to tell stories, we want to showcase stories told by people who have lived in that experience. And so it's definitely a factor in our decision making whenever we're looking at a film. If we see something that's coming from the Southern region, is this told by someone who grew up in the South or who has family in the South? Did you work with other Southerners, or is this more of an extractive thing where you're coming into this region that already is low on resources for filmmakers that are local here and taking up their opportunities? So we just like to see that our filmmakers are being mindful and accountable. And then our last question is that we just asked if it's a Southern film, which doesn't count against the film in any way. We just like to be able to look at those separately to see what work is coming out of our region.
And how is the importance of right content for you? Are you looking for a film, for example, with a good humanistic or social message? If a filmmaker, for example, make a fascinating, complicated personal films on a controversial topic, for example, if he makes a perfect film on the defense of capital punishment or Trump, for example, will you accept his work?
Yeah, we absolutely love challenging work, and we get quite a number of submissions that really are challenging each year. But I think, more than anything, we look for things that are that feel urgent, that feel unique and personal to that filmmaker. And so as much of themselves or their unique voices that they're able to inject into the project, the more, enthusiastic we are to support it. Uh, but yeah, and all that to say, we don't, that's not a requirement of our festival. The films that we've showcased and that we'll continue to showcase, they range such a wide spectrum of topics, anything from political matters to what it is to live as an immigrant, to stories about relationships, to odd, quirky, weird comedies that we show late at night, things like that. So we get a pretty good range.
Do you have a quota to meet for different regions?
We don't have a quota per se, but we do try to maintain that a large number of our submissions are coming out of the South, since we're based in this region, and that's a really big part of our values as an organization. So that's why we sort of separate those two categories in our submissions process. We've recently started, in the past, we had a separate category for Louisiana shorts and Louisiana features. And this year we've switched over to have a separate category for Southern shorts in general from the totality of the region. But films that are selected for the Southern shorts category are still competitive in their applicable sections. So if you submit a narrative short that takes place in the South and it makes it into our festival, it's still in competition with all of the other narrative shorts. And we did this because our festival is Academy Award qualifying in all three shorts categories, and narrative, documentary, and animation. And we didn't want to exclude Southern filmmakers from being eligible for that if their films are in competition. So.
You mentioned that you work mostly through Film Freeway, but how is your relationship with sales agent? Do you get movies mostly from the sales agent, or is it mostly through individual submission by filmmakers?
Yeah, we definitely get emails from sales agents and we talk to them, and there's a small portion of our films that are curated, and it's mostly the features. But we're proud to say that we're very much a submissions-based festival. So about 95% of our lineup comes from directly through Film Freeway, from submitters. And of course, we do lots of outreach with partner organizations. We offer waivers to our festival alums and to partnering teams and people who express financial need, but all of those submissions still go through the Film Freeway process. We get such an abundance of great work that we don't find ourselves having to go beyond and do a lot of curating. And it also just it opens up the means for accessibility for people to be able to submit, because not everyone has access to a sales agent. So it's great to be able to see all sorts of new emerging filmmakers come through the floodgates in that way.
Mhm. And you talk a little bit about your gender or diversity and politics. Can you explain more about the process? For example, do you at each moment consider how many films from different ethnicity have you received? If you need to fill, for example, a gap, or if you need to pay more attention to the films of people of different colors. So if you can say a little bit about the process, how this process works. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's definitely always in our heads as we're watching a film and as we're considering a film. So for instance, if I'm watching a film and it's very much about women or feminism or women's experiences, then I'm really hoping that the storyteller, the filmmaker, is someone who identifies as a woman. But as we're going through our submissions process and having our meetings with other programmers and having conversations about the films, it really mostly falls on the merit of the work itself. Once we get towards the end of the festival or towards the end of that process and we start making decisions with our team, that's when, you know, we start to take a look at, well, who's in the roster, who's represented here, what are we showcasing or what are we demonstrating by the filmmakers that we have selected. And so it's definitely something that we keep a close eye on throughout the process, but especially in the end there, once we really start to whittle things down.
Mhm. And what is the importance of authorship for in terms of film selection? If you have, for example, possibility to decide to choose a good film from a well-known filmmaker and an excellent movie from a non-well-known filmmaker, which do you prefer?
Well, we would hope that we'd be able to show both, right? But that's a great question because we do have a lot of conversations about um, what it means for us to share our platform with filmmakers. And sometimes, oops, sorry, sometimes there is a film that you know we're really moved by, and maybe it's garnered a lot of support from other festivals. And we'll ask questions like, well, does this film really need us? You know, does what can this film really get by being shown at this festival that it hasn't gotten from other festivals? And so if there's a film that we are, you know, just amazed by a filmmaker who's lesser known, we're more likely to go with that person because we think that we can offer them more at our festival. But of course, we, in an ideal world, we'd love to show both films.
Mhm. And my last question is about what kind of film festival do you hope to offer this year? Will it be physical or hybrid?
Yeah, it'll be a hybrid festival, similar to last year's, except we'll be moving back into indoor and outdoor spaces at venues across the city. And so this year's festival is taking place in person from November 5th through the 14th, but we'll also have the virtual component extended from November 5th through the 21st. So you'll be able to access everything online that we're screening, as well as all of our conference panels and roundtables for filmmakers. So we're really excited to be able to, you know, just bring back our community in a way that's similar to the ways that we knew before.
Okay, good. It was very good have a conversation with you. I don't know if you feel that there is something left that you want to mention that you think might be interesting or essential about your festival.
Um, I think we covered the bases, but yeah, that's it. Those, if anyone is interested in checking out those programming values that I mentioned, they're listed on our Film Freeway page as well as on our website. We go into detail about what it is that we look for in a film and in a filmmaker and what's important to us as a festival. And I'm really proud of that work. It's a living and breathing document that we're always making changes to. And I hope more film festivals will adopt something like it, because as a filmmaker myself, it's incredibly helpful to know who I'm submitting to.